Move on to ballot issue 5A and 2A. We don't have an official group registered as opposed to these ballot issues. Representatives from the Friends of the Glenwood Springs Rural Fire Protection District will provide a brief overview and answer questions on the two measures. Questions will be answered by either Matt Steckler or William Swigert. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Swigert?
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Matt, you did a good job.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Swigert, and as Ron said, I'm a member of the Glenwood Springs Friends Political Committee. I think that many of the people don't understand the difference between the district fire department and the city fire department. So let's visit some of these. Issue 5A is for the voters within the district, while 2A is for the city voters. The district comprises an area of 72 square miles and ranges from Canyon Creek on the west to Hanging Lake on the east and to Sunlight Ski Area, or about halfway to Carbondale on the south. It's a very large district. The recent Red Canyon fire was within our district. In 1991, the district combined their resources with the city to form one entity, the Glenwood Springs Fire Department. One department, one chief, one admin, a more streamlined operation. Although funding mechanisms are different, that being property taxes for the district and sales taxes for the city, approval or denial of the mill levy increase affects both entities the same. The ability to provide the level of service we both have become accustomed to. Level of service equates to one thing: response time in an emergency. The department has worked over the years to reduce response times, which has positively affected our insurance rates. But most importantly, it has given us the peace of mind that a trained professional will be there when we need them. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, I'm Matt Steckler, Glenwood Springs City Councilor, and I just want to say a few words on why we brought this tax proposal to the voters and give you an understanding of why we think it's needed. In the city and through the Rural Fire Protection District, the fire department is largely funded by city sales tax and property taxes. Over the last few years, due to the recession, we've seen property values drop by about 40% or so. And much of that, I think 39% is the actual number from 2010. The way this organization is set up, that really impacts the ability of the Rural Fire Protection District to fund their part of the operations. So now they're collecting 39% less revenue essentially than they did back in 2010. This is really impactful to their ability to fund their obligations as part of this fire department. The fire department is actually run by the city, and it's financed by the city as well as Rural Fire Protection District. It's kind of a complicated, convoluted scheme, and it's something I think in the long term we probably need to look at to come up with a more stable way to make this a more stable funding source to provide these kinds of services. The city part of it, a lot of the city revenue associated with this service comes from sales taxes, and sales taxes are down as well. They're still down about 17% from 2007 levels, and 13%, I think, down from 2008 levels. That's impactful. It's not like these services are any cheaper to run. There are mandates from the state and federal government that make it more and more expensive to run fire services. It is expensive to run ambulance services as part of our fire department. We run emergency services, and a lot of what we do services I-70 and State Highway 82. That's just because of where we are. That's part of our obligations. Those are expensive. We need additional revenue to basically maintain the existing services we have today. The city is not asking for any new monies to do anything new, to buy any new equipment or do anything like that. This is simply to keep stations staffed at the current levels. And what that really means is the stations are staffed 24/7, all three stations. And if we can't get this passed, we certainly start to question our ability as a community to actually staff those stations 24/7. And what's that really mean? What are the impacts of that? I mean, if we have to go down that road, suddenly maybe 2 stations are staffed instead of 3. The immediate impact may be that response times go up. A real impact would be the ability to respond to multiple events at the same time. And that happens. According to our fire department in 2012, we had 300 instances where we had to dispatch crews to multiple events at the same time. And that's a lot. So if we start cutting staff, our ability to do that will be reduced. I don't want to say that's what would happen. It's, you know, the city, I think, is run in a pretty lean fashion. There isn't much to cut anymore. Core services are police department, fire department, the rec center is certainly on there as well. Something may have to give unless we get this passed. I don't want to scare anybody, but if it comes between the rec center and the police and fire department, it's hard to cut the police and fire department. The other impact to our community members is what they call the ISO rating, insurance rating given to our community based on our community's ability to respond to events and the risk associated with a fire and you know, other hazards in our community. That's a property tax rating. If we do take measures to destaff the fire department and take away fire services, we jeopardize our ISO rating. If we jeopardize our ISO rating, we could see a potential increase in building insurance and things like that. And those rate increases may outweigh the increases associated with this mill levy we're talking about here. And anytime we talk about mill levies, it sounds expensive, but we're talking about for the typical homeowner in a home that's worth, let's say, $350,000, you're talking a $60 increase per year. Okay, that's okay. And which equates to about $5 per month. For a business owner, it would be a lot more than that. But you can see that, you know, what is that in the overall scheme of things? That's all I have to say now. Thanks.
We have some questions here, and either one of you can answer these. It's a 1-minute response. You can take 30 seconds each, whatever you choose. First question, supporters of these tax increases say the money is needed to maintain current levels of service. Can you be more specific about how services would be affected? How many fewer firefighters, paramedics, EMTs would be available, for instance?
Well, I think as Matt indicated earlier, right now all 3 stations are fully staffed 24/7. You know, the entire staff, along with the fire marshal and the fire chief and admin, is about 42 people. So at any one station, we have 2, possibly 3 people at any one time, which have to work shifts around the clock. So at some level, if we reduce staff, then there's no way that we can, for instance, you can't send 1 person out on a call. You have to send 2 people. So that's just the reality of it. And we have 3 stations, so, you know, do we put one on part-time and another on part-time? That's the dilemma.
We don't really know what the impact is because we do have some flexibility as to where we would make cuts. But the point is, we would have to make some cuts. You know, it would either be in all likelihood, the fire department, the police department, or other services that the community considers important, like the recreation center hours and services and things like that. I've been told I have to stop. So.
How quickly would service reductions occur if these measures do not pass?
These are 2014 taxes, 2014 budget numbers, so it could be as early as January 1, 2014. I don't have an exact date.
Okay. How much will these increases cost homeowners and commercial building owners?
Go ahead.
Well, as Matt indicated before, we're looking at somewhere between $5 to $8 for the average homeowner, the average home being $300,000 to $400,000. From investigations we've done with the local insurance entities, likely insurance rates when the insurers found that levels of service were affected would probably go up more than double that number. So once again, we're looking at $5 to $8 per household per month.
Yeah, that's what we have on a typical, on a home valued at $350,000 in our community, which seems high, but in all actuality, that's pretty typical. We're looking at about $5 per month increase in property taxes to fund these services. And it should be noted also that we're actually paying less for these services than we paid back in 2010. You know, with this reduction in property values, homeowners are still paying for these services, but at a very much reduced rate. This simply tries to make up for that. So I think it's still a pretty good deal.
Could homeowner insurance rates increase if these measures do not pass? If so, how much approximately?
It's hard to say how much. We laid out a scenario where if we cut back on fire services, we could see a change in the ISO rating, and the change in ISO rating could lead to higher insurance rates. It's hard to say exactly what that means, but it's not something that I really want to find out.
Is there a sunset on these, on this mill levy? Why or why not?
Well, there is, and when we originally crafted the issue, we felt that, you know, we know where property taxes have been, and they've been on the rise for many years, and then, of course, 2008 hit when they kind of went down. And likely, we believe the economy's going to come back. But what the 5-year period does, it gives us the opportunity to rebound and to hopefully get back to where we were in 2008 and prior to that, which at that point, levels of funding were adequate to provide the services that we need.
Anything else?
That's it. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes.
You know, getting back to what you were discussing, Matt, could I ask you, and again, if you don't have an answer, that's fine, but bond ratings, especially when we're talking about municipal bonds, would there be some type of effect? Do you think that there would be some residual effect if we didn't pass a mill levy that would secure the protections and make available all the services that would be considered part of a thriving community?
I think it impacts, as you suggest, quality of life more than anything else. I don't see it impacting bond ratings because we do have to balance our budget. This tax doesn't pay for any new bonds or anything like that, and doesn't, you know, the failure to pass such a tax wouldn't jeopardize our ability to fund any existing bond issues. So I don't see any change to bond ratings associated with this mill levy, proposed mill levy increase.
Anyone else?
Explain, if you would, this ongoing lack of reimbursement on ambulance billing and how that plays into the request on the city's part.
Yeah, that's one thing that I wanted to mention. This is a lot of what's going on here is it's expensive to run ambulance services. It costs anywhere from $800 to $1,200 per ambulance call, and a lot of that is reimbursed by insurers, and those who are not insured, it's reimbursed by Medicare. The cost, the reimbursement from Medicare has been dropping steadily over the last few years, and I think it, Gary, I don't know if you could chime in and tell me if it's 20% maybe of what the actual costs are. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, as much as 30% reduction.
30%, okay. But yeah, so every call we run, it is hard dollars out of the city's pocket in many instances. Those kinds of calls represent about 60 to 70% of the services our fire department provides. So it's significant and very much impactful.
Anyone else? A question on 5A, 2A. All right. We'll go to the 2-minute closing statement.
I live in Canyon Creek Estates. Since moving there in 2000, my wife and I, as well as our neighbors, have experienced several fires, almost one every other year. Unfortunately, Storm King will be one that will be long remembered. Our firefighters are trained professionals. For the last several years, they have not had a cost of living raise. They have had to have taken furlough days to help the department to reduce budget. When I dial 911, the fire department will respond. In some respects, they are asking us for our help now. I would like to think that we are there to help them. Is the $5 to $8 per month from each household too much to ask? Thank you.
You know, I sit on a city council that's generally conservatively bent. Nobody here is really angling to raise taxes for our community, and that's not always been the case around here. And everybody on council, from the most conservative member to the most liberal member, supports this initiative, this measure, because they understand what it means to the community. You know, we're not asking to do anything other than help keep current service levels as they are. This is a keep the lights on tax proposal. So the council fully backs this 2 mil level increase proposal and urges the community to do the same and support this so we can keep things as they are. That's all I really have to say about that. I mean, we have lots of young people that live in our community, most of them, like my son, 17-year-old, thinks he'll live forever. He doesn't care about this whatsoever. The more experienced members of our community, like me, understand that these things are important to our community. As Bill just suggested, this having good fire protection and emergency services is really important to a community like Glenwood Springs, and let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We will take a short break and reconvene in just a few minutes and prepare for the Amendment 66 debate. There are some refreshments in the hallway provided by local State Farm insurance agents, Jeff Leonard and Dee McCown. So we'll take a short break and reconvene in just a few minutes.